Hello everyone and welcome to BHD Studio. Today we're here to talk about the Fujifilm X Summit and the Fujikina event in New York City. I was privileged enough to go there with Julian Fok as my assistant slash videographer and to represent Canada, I guess. There was myself and Taylor Jackson that were to represent the Canadian entourage, but obviously every sort of Fujifilm region brought in various media as well as photographers, ex-photographers to the X Summit event. And then for the Fujikina event, it was an open event that as long as you registered, you're allowed to come. And so let's talk about my trip there and what I did and what sort of upcoming videos you will expect from that time I was there. And sort of the key to this trip was the XH2, which was launched at the X Summit event, but of course it kind of includes the XH2S because they basically share the same body. A lot of us knew that already, so from the outside the only way you could tell is with that S over there, but as well on the back it says XH2S, but then the other camera just doesn't have that S, and so and then this awesome 18-120 lens. And so I did ask Fujifilm Canada if we could take two XH2Ss down to the event, sort of in the spirit of the latest and greatest in Fujifilm. They sent us one, and so I basically gave it to Julian to use. It makes sense. The S with the stack sensor is probably a really good hybrid camera, especially for those that are very video centric. And so for myself, I use both my X Pro 3 and my X-T4 as my main gear as it went down. So let's sort of talk about gear then. So as I mentioned, X Pro 3 was my main camera here, and I used the 18mm f1.4 RLMWR and the 33mm f1.4 RLMW. And if I had to just pick one of these lenses for the trip, obviously it would have been 23 kind of in the middle, but I am a 28mm shooter, and so having the 18 made sense. And then if I needed a little bit more reach, the 33. And then what I'm shooting this video on was my secondary kit, which is the X-T4 and the 10-24. That's kind of like overall my main digital workflow for gear. But as well, I did bring the 35 Ti, and I'll explain to you a little bit why I brought this camera. I usually bring a film camera with me anyways, but there's a very specific reason why I matched this with, anyways, we'll talk about that later. And for Julian, he had his own kit. He brought his X Pro 3 and as well, as I mentioned, this kit right over here, which I have to return back to Fujifilm very shortly. And we will talk a little bit about gear a bit further down again as we talk about the X Summit on Thursday, but we flew out on the red eye on Tuesday. Sorry guys, I'm looking down at notes here so I won't lose my thoughts. And we arrived in New York Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. And so you fly red eye, you don't get much sleep. And so we were tired, but we got early check-in. So by 9 o'clock, we were checked in, showered, and then ready to rock the Casbah. We had an amazing room. I'm sure I shot some video, or Julian shot some video of what we looked out the room. I think we were facing southwest, but it's just beautiful. Every morning you wake up and just get this wonderful light coming into the room. And the first thing we wanted to do was eat New York pizza. So we went for pizza. I think I did a little mini review of the pizza. All right, it's my first New York pizza in 19 years. We're at, where were we at? We're at this place, so we'll talk about it a little bit later. We got, what did we get? Chicken. We got a chicken. I think you can't get a bad slice of pizza here in New York. So this looks pretty darn good. It's not as thin as I thought, but it's the right thickness that I like, and it's not wet underneath, which is the way I like it. And first bite. Julian wasn't that excited about it, but for me, I haven't had New York pizza in 19 years, and Julian had just been in New York just a couple of months back, so I'm sure he had better. I don't care. I was just excited to have New York pizza. And then we made our way to B&H because if you're a photo nerd, obviously you have to go there. And then we walked to the Empire State Building because that's what tourists do. But as well, I actually have a friend that works in there. Her name is Yvette Trin. She used to work at Leica. And so she was kind of my guide in Germany just a few months back. We kept in touch. Found out that she moved to the Citizen Group. And those of you who don't know the Citizen Group of watches, they are a huge Japanese conglomerate conglomerate of like watch brands. So there's Citizen, there's Bulova, there's Accuchong, which split off from Bulova, there's Frederic Constant, there is Alpina, as well as probably a lot of you guys will know the movement brand Miyota. And so that's all under one umbrella. And so Yvette works there, introduced me to TJ. Before we watched Nerded Out at the Bulova Museum, she took us right to the rooftop of the Empire State, which is awesome. So thank you, Yvette, so much for doing that. I saw a pretty lady in a green dress. I had no idea who she was, but there was a mob of people following her. Some model with wings or something? I had no idea. But anyways, people were excited to see her, so I just took a photo of her and then went downstairs and finally went to the Bulova Museum. And it was nice. TJ was able to show us a whole bunch of really cool vintage pieces in the collection they had there. And as I was leaving, they let me take this Bulova 811 hack with me with a blue dial back with me, and so I could do some like a sort of a hands-on sort of test of this. If you guys want to see a review of the watch, I'll do it down below. Let me know in the comments. But a lot of it would just kind of be for social media. I just wanted to play around with this watch, and I did go down with just one watch, my G-Shock here, because I had a feeling that they would loan me a watch to bring back. So these were the two watches that I had while I was in New York. And then later on that evening, we had like a media dinner, and it was pretty cool to see a lot of the people that were peers on YouTube, but oftentimes you don't get a chance to meet each other. But I was able to meet Chris from Paltatech, as well as Omar and Manny, and I saw other people from other media like Richard from DP Review, James from PC Mag, William from Image Resource, as well as Tomasz and Stephanie of Fuji Love magazine. And now I've been writing for Fuji Love ever since I think I'm probably one of the first writers for them, first reviewers, writers for Fuji Love. So I've been writing since 2015. I think that's when the magazine started. But I've never met Tomasz in person. So this is the first time I've met him. All of us were kind of in one room eating Mexican food in New York, just kind of a meet and greet, as well as the folks from Fujifilm. We had Billy, as well as Jerry and Dan and all the other folks from Fujifilm. And eventually I did little small videos with most of them, or took photos, or some of that boomerang video thing, which was one of the projects that I had while I was in New York. So that was a great time. Wednesday. Now Thursday, the big day, the Fujifilm X Summit event. I was excited. I got to sit right next to Paltatech, and we had a nice conversation. And they actually did, for those of you that watched it, they did pre-record the presentation itself so it would go through smoothly. And I think that's kind of, it's born out of the pandemic. Even Apple, they've gotten so used to doing that streamlined video, pre-prepared introduction product launch that it was nice and smooth. And then later on, Yuji Igarashi, sort of like the top person at Fujifilm Imaging, he came out and did kind of a Q&A with the photographers that partook in the launch of the new gear, the XH2, the GF 20 to 35 zoom lens for the GFX system, the new 5612, and I don't know if I missed anything else. I had thought that they would announce more, and I have a weird feeling that this is the year of the 10 years of X Summit. So I have a feeling that other than what was launched in the X Summit, there's going to be more stuff that's going to be announced before the end of the year. So I'm pretty excited for what's going to come out. But X Summit was awesome to be able to just be like feet from Kunio Aoyama. So Kunio-san was just like sitting right over here, and then Jun Watanabe was sort of floating around, and there's other Fujifilm top execs as well as like designers and engineers that were sort of floating around. It was great to be able to see them in person, and I was really excited to be able to meet them. And later on at the beer bash, I was able to talk to all of them, as well as during the there was a media presentation where we can ask more in-depth Q&A outside of sort of like that live event. And that was great because Yuji-san was there, as well as Jun-san. Now during that evening, as well as just before that evening, the beer bash event, I did talk to Yujiro-san, the head of Fujifilm Imaging and Optical. It's a long title that he has, but basically Fujifilm has different divisions. There's chemistry, there's cosmetics, there's medical, and then there's the optical imaging division, and Yuji is in charge of this division. And so I was able to come up to him, and I specifically had the X Pro 3 on me, titanium top and bottom plate, at the Nikon 35 Ti Ti point and shoot titanium, and I had my G-Shock, the GMW B5000 TVB titanium G-Shock watch. And so the theme was all titanium. And so I talked to Yujiro-san as well as Jun Watanabe and Kunio Aoyama. So those three, sort of like the top kind of execs in Fujifilm. Kunio actually was the product planner behind the X Pro 3, and that's kind of his baby, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But as well for Jun, he was the product planner for the XT4 and the XT3, and of course Yuji oversees all of that sort of product planning. And so I basically said, hey, like Fujifilm, you don't need to revive the X70, but we need a compact point and shoot, sort of like what the Ricoh GR is. I have a lot of friends that are Fujifilm shooters and a lot of friends that are Leica shooters, but almost all of us carry a little Ricoh. I mean, I have one right here. This is a GRD4, but we all have a compact point and shoot, and most of the time it is the Ricoh GR because it is the only current large censored point and shoot, digital point and shoot that's currently available, that you could put it into your pocket. And I call it kind of my wedding and funeral camera, meaning, you go into a wedding and you're in a tuxedo, you're not the primary shooter, you just want something discreet, but something better than a smartphone, you put this in your pocket. Or if you're at a funeral, even more of a reason to be very discreet and discerning when to shoot. I think for Asian funerals, it's considered bad taste to take photos, but for Western and other cultures, it's very normal to take photos at funerals. But even then, you have to be very thoughtful and sort of discerning of when you should shoot. So having a small, light, compact camera, X100V is awesome, but it is not pocketable, and you can't wear it in a suit or in a tuxedo, right? So you want something small like this. So I basically talked to Yujiro-san, to Jun-san, and to Kunio-san, and basically told them, guys, if you can make something like the 35 Ti, but a modern version of it, made by Fujifilm, a point and shoot, APS-C censored, worst case, a 1-inch sensor, but we really want a APS-C sensor because we know they can do it with the X70. It doesn't need the articulating screen. It would be great if it had it, but it doesn't need it because the Ricoh GR doesn't have an articulating screen to keep everything small and compact. But make it into a premium camera and make it out of titanium or some kind of I don't want to call it a gimmick, because in a way this is a gimmick, right? The whole titanium point and shoot T2, T3, the Minolta TC1, the 35 Ti, 28 Ti, none of them had to be in titanium. But it just had, it's a tactile feel. And that's kind of what Kunio said about the X Pro 3 and a lot of us X Pro 3 shooters. Once you have this camera in your hand, you kind of forget about specs and numbers and it not having IBIS. You just hold it in your hand, you have the aesthetics of it, the shooting feel of this camera, and you're hooked. You don't care about the specs. Same as the X100V. If you're just looking at it spec for spec, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a very popular camera, cross-platform, cross-manufacturer. There's guys shooting Sonys and Nikons and DSLRs, and they still will have an X100V as their vacation family camera. A lot of it is just, as soon as it's in your hand, that's the camera you want to shoot with. And so I told Fujifilm, I think you need a compact point and shoot. I would love it to be in, I kept on saying Chitang, which is Japanese, say titanium. So 35 Ti, my G-Shock titanium, and the X Pro 3. I just showed them, look, all these cameras are special. All these products are special partly because they're using this space age metal, as it used to be called. And so that was great to be able to corner them, but as well as to be able to speak with them in person, to meet them. A very humble team, very approachable, all of them, and I look forward to meeting them again. And I actually asked them, hey, if I'm in Tokyo, may I visit the Omiya building and be able to do something with them? And they were open to it. Nothing is set, but look for me in Tokyo, hopefully doing something with some of the team there in Tokyo. Now, Friday was supposed to be sort of a free day, other than sort of a technical sit-down one-on-one with Fujifilm technical support people to ask questions about the XH2 and all the new products that were sent. But I kind of took that opportunity to go out and shoot a little bit with Julian. We walked from our hotel all the way to, I think it was called Inc. 48. It took us about maybe 40 minutes to walk there. We walked through Times Square. I got some pretty cool shots. I think I shot mostly with the X Pro 3, but it was just kind of a nice walk. And when we got there, Billy was there. And we, in fact, instead of asking them questions, because Julie and I are pretty deep into the Fujifilm ecosystem, and we already kind of know what we want, and all the specs were given to us. So it was a nice discussion. The person that we're talking with, he was actually writing notes. We were talking everything from possible firmware updates, talking about the toggle for the focus control dial, the button, making it toggle instead of it having to press that button and then be able to turn the dial and then have to half press the shutter button. We said we just want a quick toggle, and there's other little things that we asked, if it's possible. We talked about the app, an update to the remote app, and other things like that. And Billy was there as well, and it was a nice little discussion we had. And then after that event, actually during the beer bash the night before, I got to speak to a very nice gentleman, Jeffrey Hirsch of PhotoCare, and he seemed to be quite well known in the New York photo industry. He pretty much knows everyone. He has tons of crazy stories. But Julie and I just took an Uber, which is kind of a theme of this trip. I think I must have spent $500 on Ubers. But you get from point A to B very quickly. You can sort of rest in the Uber and just relax and sort of charge up your mind and your energy levels and just your physical energy. So we took an Uber to PhotoCare. What area is this?
Chelsea.
Chelsea area? And how long has your shop been here for?
Well, we've been within a block or two of here since 1968.
Excellent. So you've seen the evolution of the cameras from rangefinders to SLRs to autofocus cameras and now into digital.
Yeah, flash bulbs to electronic flash, to LED.
And we see here a really nice mixture. I mean, we have what you would say is the epitome of the digital realm, the phase ones back there. But then just behind you, you have your cabinet full of film, both sheet film as well as roll film.
Right.
So you pretty much have everything from A to Z, or A to Z as us Canadian.
Our feet are in both categories, in analog as well as digital.
But it's a 20-minute video. I'll probably edit it down to maybe 15 or maybe just leave it as is. But he kind of reminded me of kind of like Mr. David Chan of Hong Kong. Someone that's been around for 40, 50 years in the industry. And he had awesome stories. Funny thing is, whenever the camera was off, he would be telling it. And then we'll start up the camera and then try to get the story finished. And then he moves on to another story. And I was talking to Billy. Billy's like, hey, that's you in 30 years or in 20 years. And so I thought that was kind of funny. Thank you, Billy. I was not offended at all. It was a compliment to be someone like Jeffrey, being in the industry for so many years and meet so many great personalities. So thank you, Jeffrey, for inviting us to your shop. Thank you for the tour. Thank you he gave us water bottles, and we got to be able to meet his wife the next day at Fujikina. But that was one of my highlights, is to meet Jeffrey and to go into his shop and just sort of see the variety of gear he had, from film to phase one to Fujifilm products to used Leicas, and just he had the whole gamut of sort of the camera gear that you would want in a camera shop, an independent camera shop. And then that night, Fujifilm Canada invited us, Jerry and Billy, to a dinner, and he said, you want Korean or steak? And I said, of course I want steak. I mean, you can have Korean steak, but I said steak. It was a sort of a jazz clubby steakhouse. Downstairs there was a jazz band playing, and I didn't know the difference between prime rib or strip loin, but I got not prime rib, ribeye. Got the ribeye. It was good. The steak was like this big. And so thank you, Billy, for that very expensive dinner. And sorry, Taylor Jackson, you flew out, so you couldn't have any of that steak. And so then that evening, I think I went to go shoot a little bit more. And then Saturday was the big Fujikina event. Now, Fujikina was it was an amazing event. Just all sort of, I'm used to camera nerds coming up to me and going for photo walks, usually 20-something, 30-somethings, or maybe 40, 50-something married men with kids. But this was, lots of women, lots of older ones, lots of younger ones. There's a nice mixture of people, a nice snapshot of those that shoot Fujifilm, those that love shooting with these types of cameras. Photo walks taking place, lots of cool swag. We missed a lot of the patches. They were giving away little patches. They misplaced my name tag, and I collect those tags, but Julian had his, so I was a little sad about that, but that's fine. Philip Bloom gave a talk. There's other great speakers. and I was able to interview lots of people. I started a series that I'm gonna call Talking Cameras, where I asked basically 4 questions. I started way before as well. I started it at the beer bash, as well as at the meet and greet and at the X Summit, which was I asked 4 questions, which was what is your favorite current Fujifilm camera, either X series or GFX? What is your favorite Fujifilm lens? What is your favorite Fujifilm film simulation? And what is your favorite Fujifilm legacy product? So that's either a discontinued digital camera, like let's say an X Pro 1, or it could be a Fujifilm film camera, an old film camera like a GA645 or a TX1, or any like old discontinued film like FP100C pack film. And so I asked that question. We asked about 25 people this question. Now, if I sort of stitched all that together into one video, it would be like an hour and a half. And so I'm gonna create a separate video of talking cameras, but maybe I'll just insert a little example here.
Most of the time I shoot with Pro Via, but my favorite is actually Pro Negative High. Okay, don't ask me why, I don't know. And sometimes Pro Negative Standard. I go back and forth between the two because I feel with the Standard I just get more representation of what I'm shooting in the studio that I can take into post.
As well, I got a key interview with Yuji Igarashi, as well as Victor Ha of Fujifilm USA. And Yujiro, if he looks familiar, he was head of Fujifilm USA, and then they sent him back to Japan, promoted him to the sort of the top position. So I was able to interview both of them. Unfortunately, we actually had an audio a crash. One of my little recorders crashed, and it crashed on these interviews. And so I think I can save Victor's video because him and I were close, and I had a microphone on me, and Victor has a strong voice like my voice, and so his voice got picked up. I'm gonna make that as a separate video. And for Yujiro-san, I think what I'll do is I'll just sort of transcribe everything we talked about, because we had a scratch track, but it was windy, and so I could hear what he's saying. So I'll write it down and sort of go overview of what we talked about. So that's going to be a different video. And something kind of funny happened, and I'm sure Julian caught it. One of my fans, he came out to me. I think his name was Zarub, and he was so excited to meet me. He wanted to take a selfie with me, but instead of a selfie, he gave his camera to one of the models that was there. So Lilia, thank you so much. I think that was her name, Lilia. I took a few really cool pictures of her taking pictures of us, but I thought it was funny that here is this fan who gives the camera to a model who's used to being photographed, and she's now photographing this camera nerd with another camera nerd together in one photo. And that was a lot of fun. But it was great meeting so many different people. Jeffrey, like I said, Jeffrey and his wife came. Some of the models that were in the photos came as well. And to be able to meet these ones and talk about our love of photography. And I think that was kind of the focus of Fujikina. Was, of course, there's gear. Of course, we love cameras. But I think the theme was about celebrating photography. The focus seems to be about the community in the Fujifilm world, and be able to share our passion for photography, as well as, passion for gear. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not kind of a gearhead. I love cameras. I love lenses. I love, accessories, straps, and things like that. But as well, ultimately, we are creating images. We're creating memories. We are documenting our lives. We are documenting the world. And to be able to have all of us kind of meet together in person, to be able to share this passion. Thank you so much, Fujifilm, for putting on this event, for all of us sort of camera lovers, photography lovers, to be able to meet in one place at one time and physically be able to meet each other. That was really a great event and a highlight of this year, and the highlight of this entire trip to New York. All right, we finished Fujikina. Good work, hype man. Hey, good work, Billy.
Peace out.
Good work, Julian. Hey. Now, after the Fujikina event, there was a private rooftop party at the Ink 48, and Billy was able to squeeze us in. Thank you so much, Billy. I don't think there was any other media YouTubers. I'm just trying to remember, but it was pretty much like Fujifilm staff and as well as some of the photographers, the speakers that were at the event, the keynote speakers, and just very limited media and like ex-photographers. And so it was nice to be able to kind of more in a relaxed atmosphere, be able to talk to ones. I took some pictures and a little bit of video. A lot of it was kind of vertical video, but I got some video as well. Beautiful, beautiful look out into the New York City skyline. It was great to be able to go to this event and sort of see the culture of Fujifilm, and Victor Ha, be able to talk to him again and be able to see all the other Fujifilm members sort of in a relaxed state was fantastic. So thank you again so much for being invited to this private party for Fujifilm. Now, Sunday was the day that most people were flying out, but I decided to stay an extra day just to have a free day just for myself. And so myself and Julian, we took the subway because, you have to take the subway at least once in New York if you're visiting. And we went down to the Lower East Side to visit Stock Easy, to visit Jason Roman at Jason Roman Studios. He had a name for the studio, an unofficial name, so I'll just call it Stock Easy Studio. Beautiful space, and I love that sort of that southern part of the east side of Manhattan, and it's right next to Chinatown. And so we were able to walk in the Chinatown. It was raining, so it was a little bit kind of miserable, but also memorable because it was miserable. And we walked through Chinatown, and we found a Cha Chan Tang. I can't say it correctly, but a Hong Kong style cafe. And I was just kind of dying for Hong Kong style milk tea in Chinatown, New York, because that's like probably one of the most famous Chinatowns, along with the San Francisco Chinatown. That's also a famous one. I went there back in 2018. So be able to visit New York Chinatown was just awesome. I was there in 2003, but didn't spend a lot of time. So it was nice to walk around, take some cool photos, and have some Hong Kong style food. And even Stock Easy had a good time. All right, Stock Easy's first taste of Hong Kong style milk tea.
It's very nice. Well, it's comforting.
Yeah. It's a real Hong Kong style cafe because it was cash only, and none of us had cash. And so Stock Easy, thank you for using the bank machine and paying that extra fee to be able to feed us, to eat there. And then we went back to a studio and we shot another talking cameras video with just Stock Easy. So that'll be a different video as well as a full interview with him. And again, that video will come out a little bit later once I get all my Fujifilm videos all rolled out. And that's pretty much my trip. Later on that evening, I went back because I kind of thought like I have to take night pictures in the rain in Chinatown, but I accidentally brought the wrong lens. I brought the what did I have? The XH2S, and I brought the 3314 instead of the 1814. So I was just kicking myself. I just wanted to go super light, just one camera, one lens, no tripod, and an umbrella because it was raining, right? So I brought the wrong lens, but I think I got a few good shots out of it. But just the experience of going there at night and shooting, even if the photos didn't turn out the way I thought it would turn out, I got a couple of good shots, but just the memory of going down there is priceless, right? I'm kind of writing stories in my mind, and the visuals go along with the stories, but the visuals aren't as important as the story that I have to tell. This is just another extension of my storytelling abilities, and going on this New York trip was fantastic. And so thank you, Julian, for coming with me. I hope you had a good time, and he's gonna be helping me make all these other videos, and whatever extra videos I can create, I'll try my best to pull those off. Probably take us about a month to get all these videos out. And so thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for your patience. I think this video is already far too long, but I don't really care about the algorithms and stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and happy shooting. Peace.